Hello there, the internet. we're we're all a little bit speechless after the Darlington race. God, we got a lot to cover today. There was a lot that happened.
Yeah, even Xfinity too.
Yeah, even in the Xfinity. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really watch the Xfinity race. I was off, but I was doing other shit. So I did watch the end of it.
I caught a few glimpses of it. I caught some kind of weird moments throughout the race. It was under a rain delay for a few hours, so um, I kind of got caught off guard a little bit. And then kind of tuned in probably once it got going, probably 30 laps or so. Um, but it was intense. Not gonna lie.
And no, and I don't remember anything from the race because I wasn't fully paying attention because of the other things I had to do. But
There is one
the
moment that I do
last
remember
lap.
though.
What is that?
I don't know if you saw it, but Alfredo like rear-ended John Hunter during the caution
Oh my
lap.
God, that's right. You're right.
I
How
was
did
like,
that
what was he?
happen?
I was like confused because like I was watching it, and it looked like he was just like gaining so much momentum, but I guess he kind of misinterpreted and tried slowing down, but he went all the way down, or it looked like he was trying to go down to the bottom, and then just like slammed right into the back of John Hunter.
I am
So
so confused. I do remember that because I don't remember what I was doing at the time, but I remember, yeah, because it was under caution. I looked up and I was like, did we just crash under caution? And so I looked at the replay. Motherfucker just came down the back straight away at like Mach 10. I was like, why? Like, how did this?
I was like confused. I'm like, what happened? And then he just like ass packed him
Did they?
out
Was
of the
there ever any
backstretch.
kind of explanation as to what happened? Because there's no
I
way
think
that he
he
just
just
wasn't paying attention.
I think he just took he misinterpreted it. Like I guess he thought they were going a lot faster than he thought they were, and then just
But I feel like you would
tried to
notice
correct
that
it.
before you got there that you were. You'd
Yeah.
think at some point you'd be like, "Oh, I'm catching them kind of fast, huh?" But
But he
that
caught
whole
them
scenario
quick
just
for
confused the
sure.
shit out of me. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was just kind of weird. I was kind of puzzled about that, but yeah, uh, pretty crazy finish though. I mean, it was somewhat clean. Like it was hard racing, but it got pretty wild there at the
I
end.
wouldn't call that clean there, buddy. But I mean, if clean as in nobody dumped anyone, then yeah. But
Yeah, I would say like clean like that,
that
but
was
like not
far
like
from clean.
yeah. I mean, they pretty much wrecked each other, but I mean, I don't know. It was exciting. I was like I was on the edge of my seat.
I think all of us were, because I was like, is Kyle Larson really about to wreck this guy for a win that means nothing to him? Like, he's just there for experience at this point, and he is wheel to wheel just smashing this poor bastard up into the wall. But
Yeah,
that was
and then
exciting, though, too.
it was because like I saw Gregson was in the wall. I'm like, oh shit! I'm like Creed has a chance, but he just couldn't get off the wall there. Um, so that kind of sucks because I mean he's been like so close to winning, and then that was like his chance of just locking into the championship
Yeah,
playoffs.
if Larson hadn't sandwiched him, I'm pretty sure Creed could have won that.
Yeah, and then which he took it pretty well because I mean he shook hands after the race. So I mean it was pretty hard racing. So no hard
I was
feelings.
just, what really blew my mind is when Gregson followed him into the wall. Like,
Yeah.
he
Well,
blew the
I
tire and
think
hit the wall. Then Gregson, I think, just got excited, overshot the corner, and he followed him right into the wall. And I was like, oh my God, they're all crashing.
yeah. I think he just got too excited there and just like pounded into the wall.
Didn't throw up this time though. Proud of him.
Almost.
Almost, but he
He
didn't.
came close. I mean,
He's
looking at his
definitely
face
out of
after
it.
the race, he looked like he was about to just puke all over the camera.
Either that or pass out.
Yeah,
One of the
one of
two.
those two. But yeah, that was a crazy finish. But uh, what was I gonna say? I forgot.
Good job. It's been a long day,
Yeah, it's been a
long race.
eventful day.
But God, other than The cup race today was also fucking wild. Like the Xfinity finish was insane. The finish
Yeah,
the cup race today wasn't really as insane. It was pretty tame, but like everything leading up to the finish was just the bingo
it's
cards, throw
just
them out the window.
yeah. Your bingo cards were just shit.
Yeah, like it's like I told you when the race ended. It's like if you had come to me before the race and said Chase Elliott was gonna finish last and Eric Jones was gonna win, I would have looked at you like you were fucking insane. But if you had told me that uh, something stupid would happen to Truex and Bush, then I'd probably be like, you know
I
what,
would
yeah,
believe
that seems
that.
pretty. I'd believe that. That sounds pretty on brand for the season. But the
Yeah.
way it all happened was just so dramatic.
It
So,
was because like okay, so let's start off from the beginning from when
the
who was
beginning
it?
with Elliott and Briscoe,
Elliot and Briscoe, yeah.
the chase on
They
chase violence.
yeah, the chase on chase violence right before the stage end too. Like they took each other out. I was like, fuck, like, and I kind of thought that they would get it fixed, but once it hit about like the 2 minute mark and they were still working on that thing, I'm like, yeah, there's no way that they're gonna come back from that.
I knew they
Um,
weren't gonna get it fixed when they started throwing the truck on parts out from under the car. Like, I was like, maybe they can fix it because we've seen the that kind of stuff be fixed before on pit road. But when they took the tire off and you could physically see the truck arms and everything just like crumpled up under the car, I was like, yeah, no, they're not fixing that even in 10 minutes. There's no way.
yeah, no, it was pretty beat up too. And I know somebody took a picture of the car, um, in the garage, and you can see like the toes like in is like inverted to the left a little bit, so there's no way of coming back from that. And I think somebody said that the bottom toe link broke, so and that part's like pretty much unreplaceable. So
Everything was broken in the rear of that
oh,
car.
not the lower toe arm, I think. But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
either way, that part was unreplaceable. So
God, they were throwing chunks of metal out, and I was like, bro, let's have the suspension they're throwing out onto the pit box. Like,
yeah, they were just throwing parts out like crazy. And then yeah, Briscoe having issues, and then Larson. I think he was the first one to run into issues. Like he pitted with mechanical issues. They were saying that the motor was acting
yeah, the
weird.
motor was down,
Yeah, and
which
then
mysteriously fixed itself.
yeah,
Kind
I
of.
think they did something to it, but I guess it fixed the issue. So nothing too much to worry about. But he still had a pretty bad day. Um, he pretty much was caught under like laps down, so it took him a while to kind of get back on the lead lap. Um,
Then he crashed again.
and then he crashed again.
Came back to finish 12th though, so still a strong comeback for Larson and the engine issues.
Yeah. And then
But
who else?
William Byron
and
was
then-
also reporting an engine problem that went away like 2 laps later.
Yeah, it's just super weird.
Something funny going
Um,
on with the Chevy engines in the Hendrick stables.
Yeah. And then Ricky Stenhouse, like he just plowed the wall, like they he literally took the wall down and just oh, it was bad.
Did he overshoot the corner or something?
I think he just got loose. I mean I don't know. He must have like he probably overshot it.
Because he killed it.
Because I know
when he came
everybody
off
was
that
kind of
corner.
messing up on that turn because of the bumps. But yeah, he
Just
what do you call it?
decimated that wall.
Yeah, he decimated the wall.
Really
Like, he just,
pancaked it. Because that and Chastain was having another problem I've never seen before. I think they said they had debris stuck up in like the rear of the car. I don't remember exactly
Yeah.
what the problem was because I didn't write it down, but there was something about debris being stuck up in the car and that was making the wheel
I think
loose.
I think they said something was stuck in the pins.
Oh, there was debris stuck in the wheel pins?
Yeah. So I think that's
Oof.
what probably happened. So they probably
That's
just
awful.
yeah. Because I think when they changed the tire, they still reported the problem, but I don't know how they didn't see that when they changed the tire.
Might have
I
been
don't know if
just
they were
barely
just, like,
small enough.
Yeah.
It might have
Maybe.
been like a little chunk of rubber or something that just kind of got wedged in some of the things.
Yeah.
At least that's what I'm thinking, because it's just like that's the only thing that would actually get stuck in there. I feel like you would notice sheet metal.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I know he ran into a lot of issues too. So.
A lot of playoff
Um,
drivers
a lot of playoff drivers crumbled. A
Yeah,
lot
but
more than I thought they would.
I was gonna say before we get into the other catastrophe that was the second half of the race, um, something that we tweeted out on our Twitter page. No one responded to it, so maybe nobody knows either that or we just everyone ignored us. But the fires like only Fords have caught fire, and that's something that I think you caught first.
Yeah, and it's very weird to see it too, because like I know like on the broadcast they were talking about it. They were saying that like where most of the fires were happening, but it's weird because like the one from today, it didn't really seem like it came from the exhaust. It came from like the inside, and I think they actually
Well,
reported that it was a like an electrical fire.
was it electrical fire? Because they're saying I think the reason that side of the car is bursting into flames so much is because the exhaust gets pushed in, and so it just gets too hot in there. But like, well, we've noticed that it's all been Fords. Every car that's just randomly burst into flames this year has been a Ford,
Yeah,
and so that makes me think that because the way they
something's
explained it on the broadcast makes it sound like it's a next gen problem, but we haven't seen the Toyotas or the Chevys just randomly burst into flames like that. Usually, when a Toyota or a Chevy catches fire, it's after a crash. I've yet to see anyone else other than a Ford just randomly burst into flames. And so when you take that into account, now it's making me think that this is a Ford problem with the next gen.
yeah, yeah. You're right, because yeah, it's just super weird how they all just catch on fire, and it seems like in the same area too. Because I know Harvick was actually running with that fire like for a good 2 laps.
Yeah, 'cause what do you say? The rocker arm caught on fire or something like that?
Yeah, rocker arm.
Something in the
So
right front of the
yeah,
car.
it was a rocker arm, not an electrical fire.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
he was
it's just
hoping it would just burn itself out. Because I think with the Gen 6 car, something like that would have just burned itself out and he would have been fine. But whatever parts are
yeah,
down there in the next gen are very flammable. Because that's why everyone was confused when I think it was Custer was the first one to just combust. And they thought
no,
it
that
was the
was
door foam. Was it
Busher.
Busher? Busher, yeah, because they thought it was the door foam that caught fire. And everyone was like, isn't the door foam supposed to be fire resistant?
Yeah, which is super weird.
And so,
Um,
yeah, so I can kind of see how you thought it was the door foam, but now it's come to light that it's not the door foam. It's actually the other components of the car that are catching fire.
yeah, it's just it's really bad. And then I kind of Kevin Harvick kind of put him on blast too, because like
As he should.
yeah, you should, because it's a growing problem, and nothing's been. I mean, they've tried to fix it by putting that little cover next to the exhaust so where it doesn't get pushed in.
Well, clearly it
But it's
hasn't done anything
still,
because they
yeah,
said they added it after the Busher fire, and we've had 2 more cars. Actually, technically 3 because JJ
JJ
Yeley was on
Yeley,
fire tonight too.
like
Another Ford.
twice.
Yeah, twice today the man was on fire, and he also drives a Ford.
Yeah, it's
So
just
yeah, so we've had what 4 different Ford teams catch on fire. 2 of them out of the Stewart Haas stables,
yes, yeah.
unless I'm
Two of them
missing
out of Stewart
somebody.
Haas, and then one from Roush, and then one from Rick Ware.
Where? Yeah.
Actually,
Which
two from
do
Rick
do
Ware.
we count him twice because he caught on? No, it's the same car. I think we'll count it once.
I mean, I'm counting twice because he caught fire twice.
I mean, he caught fire twice, but it was the same car in the same race.
Yeah,
I just
but
opening Twitter and seeing JJ Elliott's on fire again. I don't know why. It made me. I shouldn't have laughed, but just I don't know. Just something about the way the tweet was written that made me giggle. It's like he's just on fire again. Like that's just a normal thing for him.
yeah,
So,
just
this
yeah,
weekend it was because he was on fire yesterday too. So
yeah.
yesterday's Xfinity race.
The Xfinity race, he caught fire.
It was a big ass fire too.
It was. I mean, the Harvick one was really big too, and I mean the whole car was just like engulfed in flames.
And I
But
feel like that's the big problem NASCAR's having right now. Is like with the Yaley fire from the Xfinity race, that was the direct result of the engine blowing. The Harvick fire and the Ford fires that we're seeing in the Cup side, it almost feels like no one really actually knows why these fires are starting. Because it's like
yeah,
we think it's an
and
exhaust
it's
issue. NASCAR did something with the exhaust and it hasn't done anything.
yeah, and then and it seems like a part issue too, because like even Truex had a mechanical issue. Um,
Yeah, but that was
so
engine related. That's not. That's from. That would be from Toyota. That wouldn't be the next gen problem. That would be a Toyota issue.
mm,
Because I think they still get the engines from the manufacturers. They get the bodies from NASCAR, and
from
so
NASCAR.
yeah. And so I feel
It's
like the engine issues, they'd have to point their fingers at Toyota and be like, "Hey, yo, bro, why did my belt come off?"
yeah. Um, but yeah, it's really bad. It's kind of looking bad for Fords. I mean, especially them being in the playoffs. Like I would be concerned because if you're sitting outside the bubble, like kind of like Kevin Harvick is, I would be concerned because if you're if these Fords are having issues with their cars catching on fire, then you definitely want that kind of looked at and fixed because
Yeah, and not
it
even
could end
small
your
fires. Like these have all been like big ass fires.
yeah, and it's enough to end your day too. So it's
Well, yeah, because under NASCAR ruling, you get out of the car, you're done. But it's also if your car is also burnt to the ground. Because that was another thing. It was I think this was the Custer fire. With the Custer fire, that car was like
it was
crispy,
burned.
crispy. Like at least with Buescher, they put the fire out fast enough that I didn't burn the car down. But with Cole Custer, that thing was like extra crispy. And then tonight with Harvick, like the entire passenger side of the car was just engulfed in flames.
Yeah,
So it's like this isn't even like, oh, we have a small fire problem. Like this is a big fire problem that needs to be
yeah.
addressed like as soon as they can.
And I would get it too, like if they were hitting the wall or something like that. But he didn't even hit anything. He was just racing his race.
I was
So
gonna
it's
say yeah,
like,
because that's what he was saying. He said just riding along. Now we're on fire, like cheap ass parts.
yeah, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So I mean, hopefully they get this fixed soon, if not sooner.
I mean, I don't think they'll find a fix by the end of the season. So we're just gonna have to deal with it. But they need to fix something by next year. Like I feel like next year we need to figure out something because that's another thing. Like the safety of the next gen has been heavily questioned over the last several weeks. And to
And
add to
you've
that,
seen
we
it
now
too.
yeah, and so like we've had the Fords just combust, and then today too, Cody Ware. Granted, he knocked the wall down twice, but he was reporting that he was feeling really hurt and wasn't feeling good after he hit the wall the second time.
Yeah, and I
And
mean, it was a pretty violent hit. Like it wasn't just like a little bump or scrape on the wall. He
oh yeah, no, he
power
definitely
drive that wall.
he power drive the wall. But even then, like we've seen people do that in the Gen 6 and the Gen 5 car. Hell, we've seen people do that in the Gen 4 car and walk away just fine. So the fact that we're having run of the mill like average Tuesday night accidents and drivers are reporting being very hurt afterwards is another huge red flag for the safety concerns of the next gen because it's like, well, yes, it was a huge hit that he took. Um, it's not anything that we haven't seen before from these kind of crashes in NASCAR. For NASCAR standards, that wasn't a
That's
terrible crash.
yeah. It's definitely concerning because yeah, it's not shouldn't be this common to where a driver gets really hurt after a wreck like that. Because I mean even before the weekend, like Denny Hamlin was sitting out of the Xfinity series because he still wasn't feeling well. So I mean it's really concerning that these drivers are getting hurt a lot easier than they were before. And I understand that they're trying to build a more durable car, but with a durable car, you're putting drivers at more risk because they're absorbing more of that wreck. So I mean, something's got to be fixed to where if we have to kind of go backwards and make the car take more of the impact, then so be it. Because you can't just keep making these drivers take all these heavy hits, because sooner or later they're gonna have to be sidelined because they're hurt. So
I was gonna say like we're like the NFL is starting to address their safety concerns from what I hear, and so it's like we're gonna have an issue with like what the NFL used to have, where we're gonna have players dropping left and right because they keep taking. We can't keep giving them these hard hits. And I forgot who brought it up. I heard somewhere. I should have made a note of this when I saw it, but somebody brought up a point and they said like the problem with the next gen car is that with the old cars, with the Gen 6 and the Gen 5, is when you took a big hit like this, the whole car was like one uniform piece. And so like if the car was hit hard enough, the body was able to bend. Like the body panels as well as the chassis would bend and twist to kind of get all of that energy absorbed through the car, not the driver. With the next gen, the bending ends at the fender. So when the fender hits the body, everything just kind of stops. So it's like the
Yeah.
chassis doesn't bend or twist in any way; it stays uniform. Whereas the body panels are crunching, and so if you get hit hard enough that the body panels crunch, now you're just sending this shock wave through the chassis that is just destroying the driver.
Yeah, and you saw a lot of that last week at Daytona. I mean,
Oh yeah,
um, just a lot of heavy hits. I mean, if
a
you
lot
look
of
at
drivers
Suarez's,
complaining after Daytona.
yeah, if you saw Suarez's inboard, like he was literally just like shaking the entire time, just from the impact that he was getting. And it wasn't just like from the first hit when he just like slammed into a wall, but it was just from like other cars just like slamming into him. So,
Because there's also radio of a couple drivers. Like after Denny Hamlin, they had to give him a few minutes to actually talk because he came on the radio and was very in obvious pain. And Bubba Wallace during the crash also was saying that there's no reason that he should be in this much pain after being hit in the rear.
yeah,
And like even if you look at the crash too, it's like it's going back to like I said for NASCAR standards. While yes, it was a huge wreck, it's not something that we haven't seen before. And
'cause
especially if
before,
you
like,
watch
he
the
would oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, no, you're good. But it's like even if you watch the drivers who are complaining, like Denny Hamlin and Bubba Wallace were very vocal about being really beat up after the Daytona wreck. If you follow Hamlin's car in that crash, no one ever really hit him that hard. Like he just got swept up the track, hit the wall, and just kind of got mushed into the wreck. It's like you see that all of the time at super speedway wrecks. We've actually seen worse crashes than that at super speedways and drivers we find. And it's the same with Bubba Wallace. If you follow his car through the Daytona wreck, no one really hit him that hard. He just kind of got tapped, got booted down the track. I think he got hit like once or twice, if that. But like he didn't really hit anything that hard. And the fact that they were both complaining as in being that much pain after a wreck that really wasn't that bad for those specific drivers is really concerning.
Yeah, it is. It's like getting hit with a go-kart, like when you're racing go-karts.
Oh God,
'Cause,
yeah.
like-
Have you ever been?
'cause, like,
have
you
you
know,
been
you're
ass
not-
packed in a go kart? That shit hurts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's like there's no give. Like you're taking all that hit. So it's like if somebody smacks in the back of you, you're feeling all that, and your back just
Yeah.
hurts after that. So I mean, I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine what these guys are feeling going like 190, almost 200 miles an hour. So
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like it's easy for me to sit here and be like, oh, it's not that hard of a hit, but it's like when you look through the history of NASCAR, those aren't hard hits that they're taking, and they're very obviously in pain because it's like you say with the go kart thing. I've been ass packed in a go kart. That shit hurts. So like
it hurts. Like
it's like you
it's just
said,
like
there's no give.
And like what's funny is like you're only going like what 20 miles an hour at most, 25.
I think
And
so.
even
Yeah.
when you get hit, it's like you gotta take a moment. You're just like, oh my god, that
You're
hurt.
just like, yeah, you're just like, woo.
Or as like these guys, they take it like going like over 100 miles an hour,
Triple the amounts of the speed.
quadruple. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's like, yeah. I think the last time I got ass packed in a go kart, because it's been. I need to go. We should go kart racing sometime,
we
Chris.
should.
I feel like that would
when we
be
go
fun.
to Kansas, we're going go karting.
Yes, we're doing that now. Yeah, we'll do that. But it's been a couple of years since I've been in a go kart. But I remember. I think this was either the second to last time or the last time I was go kart racing. I was trying to slow down for something that happened in front of me, and I guess the guy behind me didn't see what was happening. And so I was kind of ass-packed at borderline full speed, and this was at pole position down here. And you know how fast you can get going at that straightaway?
Oh yeah.
So it's like you're easily hitting like,
35.
I don't know, like 20, like I know, like 25, 30 miles an hour going down that straightaway at the time that they had it set up. Because I know they change the configuration every once in a while, but
Yeah.
at the time they had this long-ass straightaway. You could easily probably hit like 25, 30 miles an hour. And the guy in front of me like fucked up his corner, and so I tried to like lift so I didn't slam into him, and because I had to lift, the guy behind me like just whammed into me because like I had to get on the brakes because I lifted, and I was gonna like it was a mess, honestly. Like the guy ahead of me fucked up the corner. I had to like slam the brakes to not cream into him, and because I was slowing down really fast, the guy behind me was like, oh shit. But I guess he didn't react fast enough, and so he just like creamed me at like a good 15, 20 miles an hour as we were going into this corner, and I was like,
Yeah, like it almost takes the wind out of you, man. It's just
It
it
does for a
hurts.
second. You just gotta go because you get hit, and there's that second where like your soul leaves your body. You just kind of go, ow. Like, so
Your
like,
soul leaves your body, and you're just looking at yourself.
yeah, you turn around, look at the guy, like, hey, like
Like, what are you doing?
yeah. It's like it wasn't his fault because it all happened so fast, and I just that's just the nature of racing. It's like it happens, but like you have that come to Jesus moment where it's like, damn, that shit hurt. But because it's like
uh,
you were saying with the go-karts, there's no give in those things. Those things are built stiff, and so a go-kart driver takes like 90% of the impact.
yeah. So when you get hit, it hurts. Like it might not look bad, but it hurts.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty
Uh,
sure if you were standing on the sideline and you watched it happen, you were like, oh, it's just a little bump. But like that little bump fucking makes your soul leave your body when it's like 20 miles an hour at no give. At that point, it might as well just
yeah.
hit me with a baseball bat. It's the same thing. So just hit me in the gut with a baseball bat. It's like
Seriously.
the
And
same
even
feeling.
like if like you're not even going that fast, like if somebody's like bumping into you like in the turn, like you still feel it. Like it doesn't
Oh
hurt,
yeah.
but it's just like you'll feel it. You're just like, oh shit.
Yeah, because it's like I've done a handful of races here and there, and it's the same thing. It's like in the car you're being thrown around all the time. It's like even if you're not going that fast, like even like your local short track races. 'Cause it's like I've never done an official like short track race, but I've like quote unquote did like testing in like my parents' backyard.
Yeah.
And like even then, just like you're being thrown around through like corners and stuff, and like racing go karts and racing other things that I've been in. It's just like if you get hit even like a nudge, you're like your body gets thrown a little bit. Like obviously you're strapped in, but it's like every bump you feel every bump that you take. And so when you get hit and there's no give, it's like that hit feels like twice as bad than it actually is because there's no give in what you're driving.
Yeah. And it almost feels like, you're getting hit with like a sledgehammer in the back seat.
Yeah, no, it's like the difference between like if you've ever like fallen, like if you fall into a mat, it absorbs that impact versus if you fall onto like a hardwood floor, it's gonna hurt a lot more. Like you could
Yeah.
fall like the same distance. Like I could free fall and land on a mat and be perfectly fine, and then I could do that exact same fall on like a
Like
carpet or
wood.
like hardwood floor, and you're gonna have to give me a minute because my soul will leave my body when I hit that
Exactly.
ground.
Oh. Yeah. No, seriously, it's yeah, the impacts are really bad, but hopefully they fix it sometime soon.
Well, they need to. They don't have a choice,
Yeah.
honestly. Especially if
'Cause-
more drivers are now being vocal about it. Like at the beginning of the season, it was very like hush hush, but
but now
after
you're
Kurt's
getting
concussion, and now it's real up front.
yeah, because drivers are seeing it now. They're like, hold on, wait a minute. Like I don't want to be sidelined because of a concussion. We need to get
Yeah,
this
Ryan
fixed.
Newman was right.
Ryan Newman was right. Nobody believed him.
I mean, everyone believed him. It was fucking Ryan Newman. Like the second Ryan Newman was like, "Hey, these cars aren't safe," everyone was like, "Hey,
What?
NASCAR!" NASCAR was like, "Look, we rebranded the Xfinity Series."
We changed it to red from purple, from red to
Yeah.
purple.
It's like, but
And we're
NASCAR,
just
Ryan
like,
Newman said the
ah.
cars weren't safe. Look, we're going to Portland this year.
No, but yeah, it's definitely a safety concern. But should we get into the treacherous half end or God?
The
I'm still in
yeah,
disbelief.
I cannot believe what happened there. It was what? It was like 30 laps to go, and I was like, yeah, 'cause I
So
remember turning to you and being like, you know what? I want this to go green because I'm curious to see if Hamlin can catch everybody. And
yeah,
then Cody Ware kills the wall, Truex explodes, and Kyle Busch explodes. And like in a span of like 3 minutes, like everyone's world came crumbling down around them.
what's funny is that like because Truex was the first one, and
Yeah.
he was saying like I'm having power issues. I'm having like a power steering issue. I'm like, oh hell yeah, this is gonna help Kyle. And then literally like the caution flag came out, and like he had a phenomenal pit stop, had a 9-second pit stop, and they were on it all day today. Like they were just like killing it every stop, because I don't even think they went lower than like 10 seconds. Maybe like one stop was like 10 seconds, but for the most part
Yeah.
they were hitting like 9.0, 9.2 pit stops. and
They were
I mean
killing it.
they were just killing it. They were like on their A game, and then
That
right when they were getting ready to go green, you saw smoke, and then like you saw them like saying it too. Like, do you see smoke coming out of the 18?
yeah.
And I was like, oh god, no. And then he came on the radio and said that the motor was blowing
Blowing
up.
up.
So I'm like,
God, I think that last pit stop was 5 seconds.
was
I
it?
think they really, yeah, because it's like I don't know. I
Damn.
like that's something I want to answer. If anybody knows like how accurate that is, because it's like that was a fast pit stop, but it's hard to believe they did it in 5.5 seconds. But at
I
the same
mean, if it
time,
was that fast to blow up the motor, then I'm kind of impressed.
I was gonna say, dude, a pit stop so fast it blew the engine. So that's my story. That's you know what? Yes, that's what happened. The 5.5 second pit stop is what killed the engine. But like
uh,
that's so hard to believe. They've. There's no way they knocked off 3 seconds.
yeah, no, that was insane.
That
I
must
was
be a timing issue on the timer because there's no way
yeah.
that was a 5.5 second stop.
There's no way. Like
I'd have to
they
go
would
see a
have to
replay.
like haul ass. Like there's no way. That's
They
impossible.
probably were like they were probably hauling ass, but like I don't think they would be hauling ass enough to knock 3 seconds off the thought. Like like maybe half a second I could believe, like a second to a half a second I can believe.
I would say if it was like
fucking
eight and a
seconds.
half seconds, then yeah.
Yeah, because
But
haven't we
5
seen an
seconds?
8.5 second stop for tires this year?
I think
I think
Hamlin-
somebody earlier this year pulled off an 8.5 second stop.
I think Denny's team.
Denny's team? Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it
You-
was.
Denny Hamlin's pit crew is either the star of the show or shitting their pants horrendously.
I mean, speaking of which, their strategy almost played into their hands.
I was gonna
Because
say,
like, if
had
that
Cody
caution
Ware
didn't
not
come out,
crashed,
he probably would have caught up and got them.
oh, he 100% would have because he was blowing people's doors off as he was coming
'Cause-
up. Because like, I was just as confused as Junior was. Everyone was like, "Why aren't we pitting?" And then it worked perfectly until the caution came out.
Yeah, because I'm like, why are they staying out? I'm like, they're just hoping for a caution. I'm just like, well, that strategy just blew their strategy because like now they're gonna be 10th, and it's gonna take forever for them to get up to the lead. And then like I think 2 laps later, he was already up to like 5th.
Yeah, like he was. They really were clowning on the competition there.
Yeah, they were.
And it went flawlessly had it not been for that late race caution. Do you
Yeah.
think? Kyle would have blown up? Do you think the caution has something to do with that? Because it was so sudden. Usually there's some kind of warning. Like Truex knew that something was going on with his car before it happened, but like Kyle just randomly
I
under
feel like he
caution because
would,
I think we
though.
were coming to one to go. Yeah, because we were coming to one to go when the engine blew up.
Yeah, I think he would have blown up anyways. Because I mean, during the caution flag, he's not running that car as hard. So I mean, I feel like if he was on the green flag run, I think he would have blew up probably like within probably 5 or 3 laps or so.
Because also that I just remember this. Wasn't he also complaining of the digital dash having issues earlier, where he wasn't sure
Yeah.
what gear he was in?
Exactly.
Because I
'Cause
think
it kept-
I just remember that. Because even I think it was Jeff Burton even brought up that could be an issue later in the race.
Oh, maybe he would have been fine if they stayed green.
I was
don't
gonna
know.
say if it stayed green, he wouldn't have had to because he would have had because all the shifting and then the pit stop and stuff. Do you think the digital dash acting up had something to do with that?
Yeah, because I know he said he was reporting that it kept switching to like gear 2 and 3, so he was kind of like confused. But
Damn.
yeah,
So many what ifs. So many questions.
Cody.
What
Ware.
isn't a question though is Eric Jones.
Eric Jones.
Welcome to the
Pulled it
playoff,
off.
Eric Jones.
I was kind of surprised because I thought Denny would catch him for sure, but
I thought he'd catch him too.
he held
But
him
no.
off.
He didn't even just hold him off. He grew the gap and then held it. I
Yeah.
think the only time Denny ever caught him was when he got held up by lap traffic. And even then, he was only held up by lap traffic for like 2 seconds.
Yeah,
if
it wasn't
that.
even that much, but
Yeah.
yeah, Eric Jones. I feel like he deserved it because he's ran so well this year, but he's just had so much bad luck. Even like California, like he was running top 2, had a chance to win. Same thing with Vegas. He was running up top 5, top 10. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's not like it's just like a random race where he ran good. He's been running consistent a lot, but it's just like he can't seal it because whether it's just like a mechanical issue or just bad luck. So
Well, he's sealed it today, and he's won at Darlington before. You know what else is impressive is Eric Jones has 3 career wins, and you look at where those wins came. He has 1 at Daytona and 2 at Darlington.
yeah,
It,
two.
2 of them, 2 Southern 500s and a Coke 400. Like that's not something to to brush past. So
Yeah, and it's
they're both
not like
incredibly difficult tracks to win at.
yeah. I mean Daytona let alone, and then Darlington is just a tough track to race around. So, um, yeah, it's definitely
Because
impressive.
wasn't Eric Jones really good at Darlington when he raced Xfinity too?
Yeah,
Yeah, because I'm remembering he was also really good because he has a couple Xfinity wins at Darlington, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. No, he's good. Like he has a lot of talent. He's a
Doesn't
very
have the
very
brakes.
talented driver, but just like is it yeah, he doesn't have the brakes, and with Petty GMS, it's definitely like a different. It's a somewhat of a new team, but it's definitely something that's going to help him in the long run. So, um, we'll just see. Because I mean, like I feel like they're able to pull off these good finishes. They just need to you know have better luck and not many mechanical failures. So
Yeah, just yeah, but that comes with just time as they work out the Kings. Like look at 23-11. Like their first season, they were all over the place. Some may argue they
yeah,
were kind of all over the place this year too. It's just they just have to find their footing, and once they find their footing, they'll be fine.
yeah. I feel like this year they're a little bit more consistent though. Because I mean, last year they were
Yeah,
like running top 15, top 20. This year they're kind of cracking the top 10 more. Even with like Ty Gibbs too, he's been more consistent. Even like running a handful of cup races. So I mean, they're definitely
yeah.
running up there for sure. And I'm definitely more impressed with Bubba Wallace. Just um,
Oh
how
yeah,
he's
they're
run
definitely
this
running way
year.
better.
Yeah, so I would say next year he'll definitely be more competitive. Not saying that he is this year, but I mean, as far as like the playoffs, I feel like he'll be
Yeah.
more of a threat to kind of be in contention.
I'm gonna say this now. I don't think Bubba Wallace is gonna win a race this year to end out the season just because they've been consistent, but they've had horrendous issues with just timing and luck and closing the deal. But I'm gonna say this now. I feel like um, Bubba Wallace can win a race next year. I honestly feel like they can win a race and make the playoffs next year.
Yeah, and then they've proved it this year too.
Yeah, like because
Michigan,
they've
they had like
almost won a lot of
their
races today this year.
yeah,
I think if things had gone the perfect correct way, Bubba Wallace could have won at least 3 races this year
yeah.
because he came very close at Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
He got wrecked very late in the Atlanta race. I think Talladega they were good. It's like Michigan is a perfect
Michigan,
example. He had Michigan in the bag had it not been for just a couple things that just didn't go his way. So it's like Bubba Wallace easily, if the seas had parted correctly, could be a 3-time winner of the season.
yeah. No, he's definitely showed it a lot. It's just that he hasn't been able to kind of seal the deal and have luck on his hand. So
Same thing with Kyle Busch, really. Like honestly, if you look at the season Kyle Busch has had, he also easily a 3 or 4-time winner this season, just hasn't been able to close it out because of just stuff like what happened today. He had Darlington in the bag after the belts fell off Truex's car. This was Kyle Busch's race, and then the engine blows. Las
yeah,
Vegas had Las Vegas in the bag, and then that late caution came out. He just got steamrolled. So it's like Kyle Busch also this season could have been a 3 or 4-time winner, but we just haven't seen them get the breaks. It's the same thing with Bubba Wallace. Just could have been a 3-time winner by now. It just hasn't had the breaks.
yeah. No, I mean he's been so close, but yeah, it's just a lot of bad luck. But I mean he'll be there next year for sure. I mean I feel like he has a good shot of winning this year, but it's a little bit harder because you have more competitive drivers out there, especially trying to compete for the playoffs.
Oh yeah, it is going to be really hard because like we saw it this year perfectly. Like the one thing NASCAR has done right with the Gen 7 car, the next gen, is they were advertising it as a great like equilibrium for the different teams and stuff. It's like you all have the same car and stuff. It's gonna make it more versus competitive, and we've seen that. This has been like one of the most competitive, unpredictable seasons I've ever seen in NASCAR. And so it's like
Yeah.
in terms of like racing delivery, the next gen has done exactly what NASCAR said it was going to do. Um, Safety wise, it falls flat on its face like a fucking McDonald's pancake. But it's just, it's like everything else has been great about this season. I just really do not like all the safety. That is, and I will tout that because I love good hard racing and I like seeing the drivers who do it safely. I don't like drivers being in pain after a run of the mill accident. I don't like seeing drivers hurt. Like I love good hard door to door racing, but I don't like that we could potentially seriously hurt someone doing it.
Yeah. No. But yeah. But yeah, no,
So
definitely. Yeah, because you gotta kind of they have to fix that. It's just really getting really bad.
I feel like I've said this before. I don't know if I said it in an earlier podcast episode or if I had said it in person to somebody. But there has to be a way that we can get the next gen to perform the same way it is now, but build it kind of like how we were building the older cars. Because it's like my theory. Like I'm not a scientist. I'm not an engineer. I don't know these things for sure. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, and correct me if I'm wrong. But I think part of the reason the next gen is having so many safety problems is because it's coming in three parts that just kind of bolt together. There isn't a lot of room for give there.
Yeah.
Whereas with the old Gen 6 car, the chassis was one unison piece. Like, obviously, you had, like, the engine clips and the rear stuff that came in afterwards that was in-house built. But overall, the entirety of the chassis from, like, the engine bay to the rear of the car was all, like, a singular chassis piece. And like I mentioned earlier in this episode, with it all being one singular piece, it gave the body the freedom to bend and twist as it needed to in an accident. Whereas with the next gen, we're not seeing that. It's three pieces and they're all stiff as fuck. So that's part of the problem that we're having.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're definitely right, because, I mean, if you're building the car together into three different pieces, there's no give. It's just, it's not what it used to be before, where, like, everything was kind of welded together. The teams kind of worked on it. They had to follow certain protocols, but, it was pretty much all welded to where the car pretty much absorbs all the impact. So
Yeah, so I feel like as much as I like the idea of it being cheaper, and maybe in practice it is cheaper to do it the way NASCAR is doing it, but there has to be a way that instead of having three different pieces shipped, just build the cars as one uniform piece again. Or even just like another thing that we brought up today was the cheddar system. It's like the cheddar systems are also costing these teams a hell of a lot of money. So it's like if we can just get rid of the cheddar system and put the in-house building back to the teams, we could solve the safety problem. Or even if NASCAR doesn't want to give the teams back the in-house cars, there's got to be a way to build these cars as one uniform piece again. Because I
yeah,
feel like that's the major problem is when you take three pieces and put them together, it's going to be stiff. Whereas you just have one big piece, it's going to have that looseness that you need to get that impact away from the drivers.
yeah, no, exactly.
That's just where I sit. You got any other notes you want to cover here?
Um, no, I think we pretty much hit it all. I mean, we talked about the Xfinity race, the craziness
Yep.
there, and then we talked about the craziness with the Cup race today. So I think we pretty much hit it all.
Oh yeah. Oh, actually, hold on. That is one thing I want to say. Um, with Eric Jones winning, nobody's guaranteed the next round yet. And when you look at the points, um, especially after Chase
Oh,
Elliott
that's
crashed
right.
today, nobody is safe. Like I think Logano is leaving with what 38 points right now. But if something happens to Logano, like I think we mathed it out loosely, and I think we said if Logano leaves Kansas with any less than like 32 points above the cut line, um, he won't be safe going into Bristol. So it's I think the only way somebody can be safe leaving Kansas, assuming they don't win the race, is to be at least 30 points above the cut line going into Bristol.
Shit, sorry.
And the way this season's going, there's a chance that somebody doesn't clutch up.
Yeah.
We
No,
could see somebody not in the playoffs win Kansas, and then now we're going into Bristol with a huge crapshoot.
because yeah, they're pretty close, honestly, for the point standings. I know they posted it somewhere. Let's see. So
It's on. I know Jeff Gluck tweeted it. And so
yeah.
if you can find Jeff Gluck's tweet, it'll give you the point breakdown from what we look like after today.
Okay.
Yeah, here it is. So right now Logano's plus 38, but Harvick is below 13. So it's like no one is for sure eliminated. Like all drivers below the cut line right now, if they bounce back at Kansas or something happens to like a Reddick or a Blaney or someone who's like just barely above the cut line, we could see a huge shift going into Bristol.
No, yeah, for sure. Because anything could happen at Kansas. So I mean,
We've seen a lot of things happen in Kansas.
yeah. So it's still anybody's chance to make the playoffs. Because I mean, hell, I mean, Elliott could miss it if he has another bad race. Who else? Harvick could bounce back, could win the race, and make it into the playoffs. You just don't know.
Could you imagine if Chase Elliott has another bad race and doesn't make the round of 12?
Oh
Could
my
you
god.
imagine? That would
NASCAR would
be
be canceled.
NASCAR, yeah. That would be
They're like, stop the race.
yeah, that would be insane because a lot of people picked him for the championship 4.
Oh yeah,
And so if
you know,
he has
to
a
be
bad
honest,
Kansas. Yeah, what's up?
no, I say that to be honest, like he's the favorite because like he won the regular season playoffs. He had a huge gap coming into Darlington, and then for him just to kind of just plummet to finish pretty much dead last, that
Yeah.
definitely hurt him for sure.
Because also when you think about this year as a total, the reason he ran away with the regular season championship is because of how consistent he's been. Like he's won a lot of races, but when he's not winning, he's been in or around the top 10, top 5. And so going into Darlington, first race of the playoffs, and finishing dead last, that's horrible for their momentum going into Kansas.
And if you think about it, he's been on a roll of just like having bad finishes. Because I mean, if you look at Daytona, he's had a bad finish.
Well, everybody had a bad. I can't
Yeah.
relate.
But even
I
like
can understand
Watkins
Daytona.
Glen, like he had that race won and pretty much lost it, finished fourth. So I mean that would pretty much aggravate him for sure.
Well, I mean, even fourth isn't that bad. Like it's
Fourth- I
he
mean,
hasn't
fourth
had
is not-
like a dismal
not-
run is the thing.
It's not bad, but he could have won the race. So I mean that would definitely mess with his momentum for sure.
That's true.
So I mean there's been a few strings of races where he just kind of had like a lot of bad luck. Whether like it doesn't necessarily have to be to where like he finishes dead last, but that could definitely play a role into next week. Because I mean, with him having a bad finish today, it can kind of mess with him to where he kind of if he kind of continues that on, it can really mess with his head, because now he's thinking like oh, shit, I might not make the the round of 12.
I don't think he's thinking that right now though. I think if he leaves Kansas, like on the cut line or around the cut line, then that's probably really gonna mess with him going into Bristol. But like even just looking at the cut line right now, we have Cindric, Dillon, Briscoe, and Harvick below the line. Briscoe has been very hit or miss this season. He's been up and down. So like there is a chance still that Briscoe could pull a fucking rabbit out of his hat in Kansas and have a really good run and get above that cut line. Harvick for the last the last month or so has been running like consistently in the top 10. And he was running top 10 I think today when the car just engulfed itself in flames. And so if Harvick goes to Kansas with another like top 10, top 15 run, that could get him above the cut line. And so, and then we have Cindric and Dillon. Also, Cindric and Dillon have also been really hit or miss. Whereas Cindric has been a lot less present, he's still been putting together good runs. And in case y'all forgot, Austin Dillon almost won the Coke 600 this year. He came flying like a bat out of hell, and that's what triggered that big-ass crash at the end that sent Buescher flipping. So it's like, even Austin Dillon hasn't been terrible at the mile and a half. So it's like, there is nobody who is guaranteed out. Like, everybody from, like, 9th place below has a chance of elimination because we just don't. There's no one low enough in points that we can write them off.
The one person I'm sticking out though is Alex Bowman, just because he's just been inconsistent a lot.
Yeah, he has, but that also goes back to the point. It's like everybody in the playoffs right now has been very hit or miss. We genuinely have no clue. So I'm saying like anyone from ninth and below has a genuine shot at either making it or not. Like it's gonna be it really depends on what happens in Kansas and going into Bristol. And even then, we haven't seen Bristol pavement with the new car yet.
Yeah,
Bristol is gonna be a whole new animal. Because
that's
even if we
true.
come out of Kansas with no one guaranteed out, like even if we come out of Kansas and no one's low enough in the points that they're guaranteed out, we have no idea how the next gen is going to perform at Bristol in race trim. And so
That's
the
true.
next 2 weeks are vital for these drivers ninth and below.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, like they never ran at Bristol in the pavement in the next gen, so we don't know how that's going to turn out. I mean, as far as Kansas, you have a couple drivers to where they run pretty decent on the mile and a halves. Because I mean, you have Kyle Busch, he runs pretty good there. Chase Elliott, he's always good at mile and a halves.
Tyler Reddick, because
Um,
Kansas, you can ride that wall.
yeah, Tyler Reddick too. He's been pretty good, running the wall. Ryan Blaney, I'm not too sure where he finished in the spring, but um, he's been pretty consistent. Let me see.
I was gonna say
Oh,
like it's really hard looking at the playoff drivers right now. It's a pretty strong playoff field.
yeah.
And the
So
even the drivers who aren't as strong have been like very hit or miss, and so it's like you can't even there isn't somebody who's been consistently bad enough to immediately write them off because
and
they've
then
all been like 50-50 hit or miss.
and then also Carl Larson too. He's pretty good at the mile and a halves too. So
Yeah, and
um,
he's been struggling lately too. I mean,
yeah,
he's like Kyle
he's
Larson also lately has been hit or miss. Like, damn, he's up front or he's just doing something
crashing.
weird. Yeah,
Toyotas have been strong there too, so that, I mean that could play into their hands too as far as like running consistent. And I know, I mean, if you're Denny Hamlin or Christopher Bell, that's looking good for you because for one, you're sitting at 30 points ahead of the playoffs. So I
yeah,
mean, you're sitting in a comfortable spot to where like you're not worried too. I mean, you're still kind of worried because you don't want to get a DNF next week or the Bristol because it could potentially take you out. But
yeah.
it puts you in a comfortable spot to where like you can run pretty consistent. Even if you finish top 5 or top 10, you're still in a good spot to where you're not have to worry about having to gain so much points on the guys behind you or the guys
Yeah.
in front of you.
This is how I'm seeing the playoff grid right now, going into Kansas and stuff. I feel like if I'm in the top 6, so like Logano through Blaney, who are 20 plus points above the cut line, I feel like going into Kansas after what happened in Darlington, I think my goal for Kansas is to just run the race and survive it, because Larson and Chastain are in this weird bubble spot where it could go either way for them. If they have a good race, they're fine. If they have a not a great race, it could put them in danger. But
Yeah.
everybody from like ninth and below, like I said earlier, Elliott through Harvick, they need to use Kansas to get as many stage points and stuff as they can muster, because we don't know what Bristol's going to look like. And then depending on how Kansas goes, Bristol's going to be a war. So
Yeah. Because I mean, if you look at how important the stage points are, because look at Kyle, he's 8 points ahead, and he gained 18 points today. If he were just to have one stage where he finished outside the top 10,
oh, he'd be
he's
below the
already
cut line
sitting.
right now.
Yeah, he'd be below the cut line. So I mean, those stage points are so important because you want to get as many as you can, and yeah, the more you get, the better you are off. Because I mean, every point matters. Because I mean, you saw last year to where it took 1 point just to make the next round. So
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like I'm saying, if you're Logano through Blaney, I feel like just run a consistent race, try to get top 5s in your stages, and then just survive the race from there. If it starts to get dicey, if it starts getting weird, just back out. Because if you have your playoff points to fall out on, you can't risk a DNF.
yeah, no, you can't risk anything right now.
Yeah, so it's like if you're top 6 drivers, just run a clean race, get as many stage points as you can, and then in stage 3, just ride. Just don't do anything insane. Don't do anything stupid. Just ride, because at that point you're straight chilling in terms of points. It's going to be everyone that's below the cut line or floating on the line that needs to get as many stage points as they can and finish well.
Exactly. So we shall see. It's going to be quite interesting next week.
All right. Oh God. So we've been rolling for about an hour. So I'm going to wrap this up here too and say that we're gonna try to do a podcast next week. We should, because because Chris, we've already said a couple weeks ago too. We're going to the Kansas races. Like, we got tickets to go to the Kansas races, so we're gonna be there to watch it. We come back Monday morning, right?
Yeah. So I mean, we still have time to do it like after the race. So I mean, even if we do it like in the car or something like that, we can.
We can probably set something up at the hotel. So we're gonna try to get a podcast out Sunday night for you guys. But if it doesn't happen, it's because we just couldn't figure out how to do it, and we'll do something when we get back, probably.
Some recap.
But if there's no podcast, we'll it's because we just couldn't figure it out in the hotel. But hopefully we'll get something out. Yeah. Along with any videos that we take while we're there, and so we're looking forward to the Kansas weekend and how that goes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited. And, yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, see you guys next week, hopefully.
All right. See you guys.